In 1800, an Italian physicist named Alessandro Volta stacked some metal discs, separated them with wet cloth, and accidentally invented the battery. The history books call it the birth of electrochemistry, a brand new idea. But what if it wasn't new at all? What if, 4,000 years earlier, someone had already written the instructions down in Sanskrit? Buried inside a text called the Agastya Samhita, a Sanskrit work attributed to the sage Agastya, there's a passage that describes something called Mitra Varuna Shakti. Translated loosely, the power of Mitra and Varuna, two Vedic deities associated with, among other things, light and water. Read literally, it sounds like religious poetry. But some researchers who've gone through it line by line say it reads less like a hymn and more like a lab manual, a step-by-step guide for producing what the text calls primal electricity, using metal plates, minerals, and moisture. So here's the question this video is going to sit with. Is this a genuine ancient technical description that got mistaken for mythology, or is it something else entirely? I want to walk you through the claim, the chemistry, and the controversy, and let you land where you land. The passage that gets cited most often uses a term, Shikhi Griva, literally peacock's neck, a poetic way of describing an iridescent blue-green color. People making this argument connect that description to peacock ore, chalcopyrite, and to copper sulfate, a compound that famously produces that same blue-green hue in solution. Then comes the assembly instructions, a copper plate layered against zinc that's been polished down, sitting inside a clay pot. If you know anything about how a battery actually works, that layout should sound familiar. Copper and zinc are exactly the two metals you'd want if you were building a simple galvanic cell. One becomes your cathode, the other your anode. And then there's the detail that gets cited the most. The text calls for the plates to be packed in wet sawdust, not just wrapped, specifically kept moist. Which, if you're trying to keep ions moving between two electrodes, is precisely what you'd need. Let's actually test the claim on its own terms, because it sounds plausible isn't the same as it works. In a real copper-zinc cell, zinc oxidizes. It loses electrons, while copper gets reduced at the other end. Wet sawdust, soaked in something mildly acidic, can absolutely act as an electrolyte, letting ions drift between the two plates and closing the circuit. That's the science behind the claim that Mitra and Varuna represent something like positive and negative charge, a duality that maps suspiciously well onto electrical polarity, if you're inclined to read it that way. And there's newer research worth mentioning here.
40% with
Recent
cellulose
work
alignment.
on plant fiber and cellulose-based electrolytes has shown that organic materials like sawdust can actually hold and conduct ionic charge more efficiently than people used to assume. So if someone in the ancient world was experimenting with this, sawdust wouldn't have been a random choice. It'd have been a genuinely smart one, given what was on hand. So is there anything outside this one passage that supports the idea? People point to India's long, well-documented history of metallurgy, including electroplating adjacent techniques used in jewelry and temple ornamentation as circumstantial support. Ancient Indian metalworkers were extraordinarily skilled with alloys and coatings. That part isn't in dispute. Some go further and suggest that a portable light or charge source could explain how certain deep, windowless temple sanctums, the Garbhagriha, were used for detailed ritual work in total darkness, without torches. And this claim never travels alone. It almost always gets paired with the Baghdad Battery, a roughly 2,000-year-old clay jar with a copper cylinder and iron rod found in Mesopotamia. And here's where I have to be straight with you. Most archaeologists think the Baghdad Battery almost certainly wasn't a battery at all. The leading theory is that it stored scrolls, with the metal parts serving a completely mundane structural or reactive purpose. And most Sanskrit scholars treat the Agastya Samhita battery passage the same way, as a much later addition or reinterpretation, not a genuine ancient technical manual. This is a live, contested claim, not settled history. I think it's a fascinating what if, but what if is exactly what it is right now. Whether or not this specific text turns out to be an actual ancient battery schematic, I think the bigger question is worth sitting with anyway. How much of what we file under myth is really just encoded observation? People writing down what they saw work in the language and metaphors available to them at the time. That's not a call to throw out the scientific method. If anything, it's a call to point that method at these old texts more rigorously, instead of dismissing them on sight or accepting them on faith. So here's what I want to leave you with. Somewhere in the myths, folk instructions, and magical descriptions your own culture carries, is there something that reads different once you know a little chemistry, a little physics? Drop it in the comments. I want to see what you find. Because maybe the lightning of the sages isn't gone. Maybe we just stopped looking for it.